If it's Thursday, it must mean there's another weird JD Vance statement to unpack. In May of 2021, less than 2 months before announcing his Senate run, Vance gave a speech at a MAGA-affiliated think tank, arguing that companies that support abortion access do so to get cheap labor.
One of the things I've been most frustrated about in American politics is when Stacey Abrams said about a Georgia abortion restriction a couple of years ago that this was a bad bill because it was bad for business. That was the argument of our new corporate neoliberal class. And she was right. When the big corporations come against you for passing abortion restrictions, when corporations are so desperate for cheap labor that they don't want people to parent children, she's right to say that abortion restrictions are bad for business.
You heard Vance name check former Georgia Democratic House Minority Leader and prominent voting rights activist Stacey Abrams. And Stacey Abrams joins us now. She is also, I should say, the host of the unmissable and very timely podcast, Assembly Required. That podcast launched today. So we are very lucky to have her as in her first interview as a podcast host. Stacey, it's great to see you. Congratulations on the podcast. I'm sorry that you have to respond to JD Vance's name check, but I would love to get your thoughts on his allegations here.
JD Vance, as is his bent, misrepresents, misunderstands, and misappropriates information to make himself look or feel better and to try to excuse terrible decisions that he makes. What I said and what I mean is that women should have the right to control their bodies because it determines how they secure an education, how they make a living, how they decide to grow families, and that companies are going to make terrible choices if they support restricting those rights. Women make decisions about not only where they work, but what they buy. And if we have companies that do not respect a woman's basic human rights, the right to abortion, the right to health care, then those companies are making poor economic choices. But even more, the notion that women would make these decisions because of some concern about the trade-off between parenting and having a job presumes that you understand the crisis that women are going through when they make these choices. JD Vance has shown again and again he has almost no sympathy for how women experience life in America. And he has demonstrated again and again that he reduces women to the least and most puerile notion of our humanity. And I would encourage everyone to discard and disregard what he says.
You know, I also think, you know, as he has been made to explain his words of the recent past and some of the most appalling charges he's made or theories he's floated, he's gone back to this, what for him I think is a safe space where he talks about being a parent and how he just wants to make life easier for parents in America. And yet he stands on top of a ticket that has no interest in providing services or support for mothers and fathers and parents in the workplace or otherwise. I mean, it just seems like he's betting on ignorance all around with this, Stacey.
Not only is he betting on ignorance, he is suborning and supporting those who engage in this antithetical behavior. I mean, if he is that concerned, I encourage him to call on Governor Brian Kemp to accept the EBT funding to pay for poor children to have lunches. Right now, we have a Republican governor, a strong lieutenant of this ticket, who was refusing to accept paid lunches for children, for poor children in the state of Georgia, not because we can't afford it, but because he doesn't believe they deserve it. That's the kind of decision making that we face when men like JD Vance, who like to lean on parenthood as a construct, but not the practical realities of taking care of the children brought into this world that are caused by the laws that they pass and that they champion. If Brian Kemp and JD Vance want women to have families, then you have to be there for the entirety of the decision. You can't intercede in one moment and then abdicate responsibility the rest of the time.
You know, I mean, it's I hear your optimism and I hear your deep and enthusiastic support for the ticket. I wonder, though, if if you could put on your voting access hat for a second, if you could talk to me about your level of trepidation about actual election day, given the fact that I believe the Georgia legislature, the election board in Georgia, just passed 2 rules, one of which allows election officials, some of whom are very MAGA-fied and are election deniers themselves, to arbitrarily refuse to certify election results and therefore opens the door to a lot of chicanery in terms of certifying the statewide results. What's your level of concern about that as we barrel towards Election Day?
It's deep concern, but it's a deep concern that I've held for several years. This is Brian Kemp's baby. If this is his state election board, he signed the laws that have given this elections board the ability to run amok, to refuse to not only certify elections, but to enable mass challenges at the county level. We have a Secretary of State that has a cancel your voter registration website that has unfortunately violated access to data privacy at least once that we know of. And so I want us to understand that the fight in Georgia is a fight to protect and defend the right to vote. I'm so proud of the work that Fair Fight continues to do, working with allies across the state and around the country to lift up what's at stake. I'm not optimistic. I am determined. I believe that we can get this done because we've done it before. And we didn't do so ignoring the reality of voter suppression. We did so by calling it out, by confronting it, by making certain that voters understood all of their rights, and by doing what we could to raise public alarm. And while this is happening in Georgia, we've got to be watching states across the country that are going to face similar challenges. Voter suppression remains one of the top tools that Republicans use in order to win elections. And we've got to push back by demanding free and fair elections where we can. And so while I am very bullish on the capacity of Vice President Harris to win Georgia, I know it's only going to happen if we do the work necessary to raise the alarm, but also to hold accountable Governor Kemp, Secretary of State Raffensperger, and that state election board that wants to have the ability with impunity to actually decertify election results. This is not just a MAGA playbook. This is a Republican playbook, because Republicans right now can demand better action in the state of Georgia. They're refusing to because they are triangulating. They want to have credit for not committing treason in 2020, but they want the benefit of not having to certify elections in 2024. We have to hold everyone accountable for free and fair elections, starting at the top.
Yeah, you're either for free and fair elections or you're not. Stacey Abrams, your determination makes a lot of us more optimistic about where we're headed. Thank you for that, and thank you for your time. And thank you for the podcast, which we will all download at iTunes or wherever you get your podcasts.
Thanks for having me.